What now?
No, it's fine.
All right, good vach. Today is what?
You got someone watching.
Wow. Today is Daf Yomi. We're starting all the way in the top. So we had in the Mishnah yesterday, it was a continuation of the theme that kosher b'zeh, pasul b'zeh. So we're talking about the difference between kli cheres and regular kelim, all other kelim. Kli cheres, the tuma is metame mitoichai. The avir, just the ear of the kli is metama the food, and not only that, if there's tuma in the kli, suspended in the kli, the actual kli becomes tummy. Doesn't have to touch the kli. Whereas other kalim, it's the exact opposite. They need to be touched. And the other nafkamina is that other kalim, if you touch the outside of the kli, the whole kli becomes tummy. Kli cheres, if you touch the outside of the kli, it does not become tummy. As the Gemara is done with the previous Mishnayos, the 4 previous Mishnayos or so, the Gemara asks the Kavachomer that maybe we should reverse it and we should learn one from the other. Over here the Gemara asks 3 Kavachomers. The same, it's Kavachomer one way, maybe all Kalim should be metama with suspension in the ear, and maybe Kli Cheres should be metama from the outside, and then the Gemara says maybe all kalim should also not even be metama from the outside, only from the inside from a kavachomer. 3 kavachomers. Why isn't the kli cheres tamei when you touch the outside of it? If all kalim do not become tamei when the tumah, one of the shmona shratzim, is suspended inside of it, kli cheres shemitama ma'aviroi, kli cheres is more sensitive, it becomes tamei just from suspension without even touching. Enoidin shitam megam. So certainly, kli cheres, welcome back. Shalom aleichem. We missed you. Oh, you were in Chutz La'aretz? So they're starting to trickle back, but as they trickle back, we have like 5 people now in Chutz La'aretz. All right, fine. Lot. We're waiting for that perfect storm when everybody's here, all in one shot, and then I'll be gone. So kli cheres, which is sensitive, and it becomes tamei, susceptible to tumah just from suspension in its ear space. So certainly, other kelim. Kli cheres should be tamei when you touch the outside of it. Omakro. So now the Gemara brings a very interesting pasuk. Omakro. V'choil kli pasuach asher ein samid. This one, as mamash over. The pasuk is like literally in the Gemara. You don't even have to look to the side of the Gemara. So, but I still printed it, of course. V'choil pasuach asher ein samid pasuk tamei hu, because the hu is not underlined in the Gemara. But it's an amazing pasuk. Look at this pasuk. It says, any open kli, and it's referring to, the Gemara says it has to be referring to kli cheres, earthenware only. If the kli, and we're talking about tumas oil, what does that mean? You're in a room, and there's a corpse laying somewhere in the room, everything in the room becomes tamei. It's so strong, the tumah, it's literally, Rashi says, as if you're touching the mace. The tumah is there, it's present. So if you have an open vessel, an open earthenware kli, everything that's inside the kli becomes tamei. Now, the Torah says...
Does it have to be closed?
No, the opposite. The whole kli pasuach, it's open. Asher ein tzomit pasul. It doesn't have a cover and it's not closed. Then tamei hu. The Torah could have stopped and said tamei. It says hu. So the Gemara is going to use that word. But the point is that if the kli is closed, it's not tamei. Now the question is, why not? Anything that's in the room is tamei. If a person is walking around the room, he becomes tamei. If there's a banana on the floor, it becomes tamei. Even though it's 50 feet away from the dead person, it's tamei. Why? Because everything in the room becomes tamei. So then why in the world is this kli that's closed not tamei?
Even the outside?
Yeah, even the outside. Over here, the Gemara says, I learn from here this concept that a kli cheres does not become tumah from the outside. It's not susceptible to tumah from the outside. The only way it receives tumah is from the inside. And that's only kli cheres. Other kelim, who? This kli cheres has a special halacha that the outside is not tamei, but other kelim, let's say it's wood, metal, whatever it is, they become tamei just from being in the room. Or, if what?
It's only becoming tamei if it's open.
Right.
If it were to be closed,
Right.
it wouldn't be tamei.
Exactly. So this earthenware kli,
is gone.
what?
The basis for the kalcham is gone now.
Right. Because it's a special limud. Who destroys the kavachomer? Because once you have a word in a pasuk that tells you, so anything, if you have an open, let's say just like this is open, and something's inside my kli cheres, in this oil room, of course it becomes tamei, because the tumah creeps in from the top. But once I put a lid on it, then the tumah has nowhere to, it can't get in, because tumah cannot go past the walls of the outside of this earthenware. It's a shield to tumah, earthenware.
It's a Faraday cage.
A who cage?
A Faraday cage.
He's a scientist, a physicist.
They didn't teach me that in Panovich.
If you have a mission around people, when you put electricity outside, the person inside doesn't get. He's in a cage. And
Faraday cage. Okay.
In Hebrew it's spelled different.
So, Omar Kro v'chol kli pasuach. It has an open kli, and we're talking about the Gemara proves that it's talking about a kli cheres. Asher ain't somit pasel olive. It's not fastened and doesn't have a cover. Ezu klisha tu masik kridemis lepischoi. What kind of vessel has tuma before it's, in other words, through its opening without even touching it? Havi oimer ze kli cheres. That's only earthenware. V'chei ain't somit pasel olive hu de tamei. And it's only because it's open where it becomes tamei. Hayesh somit pasel olive tahar. But if it's closed, then it's completely tar, even though it's in a oil, it's in the tent of tumah, which should make it tamei, and it's as if literally you touched it. Nevertheless, it's a cage. Whatever.
Can I just ask you, or is it covered later? It seems to be a repetition though. It's open and it's not covered.
I think that's gufa. That's good. Yeah, that
big?
gufa is the limud. Thank you. And I should have. That's why I made this thing. I should have done that. You're right. That's exactly the limud what it's bringing up. I like the way you brought it up. The chol kli pasuach. If it's open, asher ein samid puzzle, which is not closed, open and closed. That's the limud here. Who? What? Thank you for bringing it up.
Add that it's got to be fastened. It's not just okay if something rests on top. So
Puzzle is a cover, summit is fastened. A fastened cover.
It's got to be fastened.
Now, and that's exactly what the Gemara, and that's how Rashi learns it, but he reminded me, thank you. Pasuach, opened, and then the Torah repeats itself. It doesn't have a cover, and it's not fastened. So in other words, so then don't say pasuach, just say it doesn't have a cover, or say it's open. And so that repetition teaches us that it dafka from when the tumah comes from within inside, and not. You could sit over here. That's fine. Oh no, maybe Chaim is coming.
The top has to be.
Oh, he's going to slap his father-in-law. He told me that would have been scary. One of the Art Scroll editors. Oh, talking about the devil. I hope you came by yourself, Chaim.
Bring your father-in-law.
He's coming. Don't worry.
Oh my gosh.
The top has to be cheres, or it can be anything.
Yeah, it has to be cheres. What? It has to be cheres in order to protect it. Now, as the Gemara. Now, as we're already used to these kavachomers, now the Gemara just uses the kavachomer reverse. V'yu kol hakelim mitamim me'aviru mikavachomer. Now, why is another type of kli like a metal kli, a wood kli? How come there's no halacha that if you suspend a sheretz, a mouse? Isn't the mouse? I didn't look it up, but isn't it in the pasuk achbar v'achoylad? I don't know. I have to look it up, but I'm what? It's in the pasuk, yeah. So let's say you suspend the sheretz in the kli, in any kli, it should become tamei. Uma kli cheres she'ein mitama migaboy mitama ma'aviroi. A kli cheres which is not so susceptible to tumah. It's a protection. It's a cage. You can't be metame from the outside, yet it's metame from suspension in the ear. Kol hakelim shemetame megabam and edim shemetame ma'aviram. By the way, Rashi, there's a Rashi, interesting Rashi somewhere. I have to find it on Daf Chav Gimel somewhere. Rashi says that all these kavachoimers are really like mamatzinu kind of things. Not like a strong kavachoimer. It's like just like we find by klicheres that the suspension works. So by all other kalim, the suspension should work, and that's why we have all these kavachoimers in every mission, the same type of kavachoimer. And it didn't shemitam ma'aviron o makro toichoy. This is really bad. No. Oh, toichoy is the other pasuk. Okay, fine. Toichoy shazeh v'loy toich shlacher. This is the chart that we had the other day. I just added a little bit tonight to the chart because we have new limudim on it. So basically, this is the pasuk. It says Chol kli cheres asher yipol mehem el toichoy kol asher b'soichoy yitmo b'oisay tishbru. So basically, it says toichoy, and that's what the Gemara is learning. That what?
Is that alive?
That there's a sheretz here. One of the Shmona Shratzim. I told you. Oh, that.
I don't think that's one.
Oh, that. You have arachnophobia?
No.
Oh.
Is it a dangerous one?
Is it dangerous?
No.
Relax, man. It's
We have everything.
Oh my God. That side of the table is looking up.
How come it's only Motzei Shabbos that we have all these creatures? That's why he sits over there. Yeah. What are you tiny?
If you have a kli that's not cheres, that has the chardal in it, and we had up on top,
Mm-hmm.
so that the outside ones will become tummy, but the inner ones will stay tummy. You could scoop out the center, and it would still be
Yeah.
tummy.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's no toichoy. There's no toichoy. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we got it. It's not there. It's alive, very alive.
Okay.
Put your socks inside. Put your trousers inside your socks.
It's not even trying to get out. It's very comfortable in there. Fine. So again, so why do we say that toichoy, this concept of suspension, would that be usher on Shabbos? That's the shayla. Is that seidah?
And why not?
But he's very scared. It's konas nefashos, little spider. Again, so the Gemara is asking, how come we don't have the concept of toichoy, suspension in the ear by other kalim? The answer is toichoy. Ask the Gemara. V'hani toichoy hadarshinu. Yesterday we learned from toichoy. Yesterday the chart didn't have two blues on top; it only had one. One is the tame, one is the tame. One is that it is metama food. Metama. It's metama food from suspension. In other words, if there's food in a klicheres on the bottom and you suspend a mouse into the klicheres, it doesn't touch the klicheres, all the food becomes tamei. The second toichoy we learned is that tells that the kli itself becomes tamei just by having one of the shmona shratzim suspended in it without touching it. So we already used up. Gemara asks, we used up the toichoy. So what's the Gemara's answer? But we have the blue. The blue, the two vavs are extra, and they give us two new limudim. What does the Gemara say? Arba toichoy ksivi, toichoy toich, toichoy toich. We have the word toich, and the end of it is the oi, the vav, chad ligufei. One teaches us the halacha that food becomes tummy inside. The chad ligzeira shava. One teaches us that the kli itself becomes tummy. V'chad toichoy shel zeh v'loy toichoy shel acher. And that's the diuk that we just said in our Gemara to knock off the kavachomer, that the toich only applies to kli cheres and not to any other kli. V'chad, and a new halacha, and that's this right over here, taken from Messiah Heritage Foundation. This is not good.
With permission.
With permission from Messiah Heritage Foundation, this is toichoy, which means that this is the kli cheres, and you have to imagine that it's completely closed with the dotted line. Inside is another kli. If you're sitting very close, it looks like there's a lot of dots, but I'm sure if you're sitting far away, it looks perfect. No? Okay. What's going on here? If you notice in the picture, and there's dotted lines over here, what the picture is showing us, that the center one is raised above. Thank you. Look at that picture. Wow, that's a nice one. Show everybody.
To the camera, yeah, that's good.
No, you could show.
You can make the announcement again.
It's the same thing.
This you don't have
It's
to.
not the same.
It's this almost the same thing. It's just very clear.
Is the inside one above the floor of the outer one?
The inside is the rim is above the outer one.
And the floors are touching?
No, the floor doesn't make a difference. It's inside the kli, so obviously it's touching, but I don't think that makes a difference. Maybe it does. I mean, even though it's touching. So, the halacha is like this. If you have food inside the center kli, it doesn't become tamei. Now, yeah.
Nothing becomes tamei?
Nothing comes to it. Now, would it be a chiddush if the center one is made out of earthenware? No, because it's a cage. The outside protects it from anything inside. The tumah can't travel. The chiddush is, even if the inside one is made out of metal, let's say, which is susceptible to tumah from the outside of it, but since it's inside a kli cheres, it's not mekabel tumah. Whatever's inside it is not mekabel tumah, as long as it's higher than the rim of the cheres. So that's why in this picture, the cheres is lower, and this is higher. But if it was lower or the same height as the cheres, then everything inside the center kli would become tamei. B'chad toichoi v'loi toich toichoi.
Is it mace or sheretz?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're talking about oil over here because if there was a sheret suspended in this guy and it was made out of cheres, then it would be tamei. We're talking about tumah that.
What's the sheretz between?
So let's say the sheretz is in here, then it doesn't go. If the sheretz is suspended between them, it won't go in.
Metal keli.
Even a metal keli. If it's a cheres keli, for sure not, because it can't get through the cheres. But even a metal keli, since it's toichoi, it's not in the cheres. We view it as inside the cheres. Toichoi, and that's whatever's inside this kli is a toich of a cheres. This is one toich, this kli, the metal kli, and whatever's inside that kli is a toichoi.
Really what you're saying is that there's no avir going through the metal keli.
Right. We don't view everything within inside the circle as tamei. You can make a barrier within that circle. Any other kli can make a barrier. Doesn't matter what type of kli. And how do we learn that? From the extra vav in the pasuk toichai. Va'afilu kli shetef. Kli shetef is a lashon of all kalim other than cheres. And Rashi says shetef milashon shtifa, that you can rinse off the tumah by putting them in a mikvah. So any other kli besides cheres, you can put in a mikvah, so they call it kli shetef. Now, well, the real reason is that Rashi explains also that the kli itself, another kli could only become tamei through avatuma. So that's what's interesting here. It can't be tamei only through avatuma. Food becomes tamei through a rishon. Fine. Says the Gemara. One more kavachomer. V'lo yiu kol hakelim mitamim migabon ela mitoichan ubenegia mikavachomer. Mehechetesa, says the Gemara, that other kalim become tamei just by touching the outside of them. Maybe you need to touch the inside, and I should learn it from a kavachomer. Umakli cheres shemitamim aviroi einu mitamim migaboy. Why don't they learn from kli cheres? That a kli cheres doesn't become tamei by touching the outside of it, only from the ear. They're not as susceptible to tumah as kli cheres, and it didn't shame mitamim migabim. O makro v'choil kli pasuach asher in samit pasal olav tamei hu hayhu d'chein samit pasal olav tamei hoyesh samit pasal olav tahar hakol hakelim. This cheres, if it's covered, it's tar. If it's uncovered, it's tamei. Hakol hakelim bein sheyesh samit pasal aleihem. So the Torah says a special halacha by kli cheres that if a kli cheres is completely closed, then it remains tar. Meaning, all other kalim in the world, even if they're closed, they become tamei. Why? Because they become tamei migaboy. You see the concept of tumah from the outside, from this exact pasuk, v'chol kli cheres, v'chol kli pesuach.
What about if the tumor is inside the keli? Can it come out? If it's in a closed keli, you klicheres.
And how's it going to come out to where?
Let's say you have a dead person's part inside a klicheres in the time of the rest of the room. Just like we're saying that it's shomer from.
If you have a kli cheres, does it protect from a mace?
I suppose if it has tumor in it, becomes
Yeah,
tumor.
right here.
If it becomes.
I don't know.
Outside becomes
It's a good
tumor,
shaila.
inside is
It's a
tumor.
good shaila. L'chayr or not? L'chayr should protect. I don't know.
The outside, if it's
Now,
tumor
there's
inside,
something.
it
There's by tumas mace is also by keyav ha'oila. So it depends you're asking if it's less than 3 tvachim. If it's more than 3 tvachim, then any kli kind of shades it from leaving. So if it's less than 3 tvachim, it explodes, so to speak, and it pops out. And you're asking if a kli cheres. Never heard of such halacha. I don't know why not, but l'chayr not. I don't know. It's a good child.
I'm wondering that because when you put a person in the ground is massive. That's why perhaps klicheres is different.
No, that's different. That's because also we put a tefach above him. If there's a tefach above the mace, sorry, not 3 tvachim, I said 3 tvachim. If there's a tefach above the mace, then it keeps the tumah inside. It doesn't burst out. So that they always put like these stones above. I think that's why they do it. What?
Kever.
In a kever.
Doesn't work for-
He's talking about a kever. He mentioned kever.
I'm saying, isn't there din of kever in the English language? Kever is the English language.
Oh, you're talking about basic fires, going to basic fires.
No, if you have a tefa,
If right.
But not if tefer is above the kever, not. You can't use the kever to be mouthful because the kever itself isn't funny.
Always.
why do they do that?
Maybe that's the suffix. Maybe. Maybe that's, you can say it's bizarre and amazing, you can say whatever you want, but I know what you're saying. You're saying that typically in the basic fires there's tumah, but it could be that suffix tumah. We don't know that there's a tefach always, but if we know for a fact that there's a tefach, I don't know.
No, but not on the kever.
Not in a big forest, because the whole big forest. And not a single cat.
You're saying a whole basic forest because of suffix probably.
No.
There's a halacha in basic forest.
Yeah. But a single cat.
Okay, we'll get there one day.
Don't hurry.
Not this. Very good. Okay, says the Mishnah, continuing with this concept, with this theme. Tahar. We got to finish Shas. Tahar bichli eitz, tameh bichli ma'atoches. If something is tar with wooden kalim, meaning pshute kli eitz, if you have a flat kli without a toich, how do you say toich in English? Anybody? Thank you. I said English.
Cavity.
Without a cavity, that's too hard of a word. Too. Okay, fine. Without a cavity, without it inside. What? Yeah, but between a cavity and a hole, there's a better word than hole. Okay, base kibble. We'll use the English base kibble word. So if a kli eitz is just a flat piece of wood, it doesn't have the cavity, then it is tar. But the same thing, if you look at a piece of metal that's flat and doesn't have a cavity, it's mikabel tuma. B'kli matochos, tar b'kli matochos, tameh b'kli eitz. A kli mateches that has tahara, meaning the Gemara is going to say anything that's not finished. If you have a metal kli that's not finished completely, let's say you have to shine it, or you have to add little whatever studs to it, and you didn't do it, so the kli is tahar. But the same thing in wood would be tameh. So if you have a wooden kli that has a cavity, but you didn't finish sanding it, you didn't finish polishing it, it's still mekabel tuma. And let's see the Gemara. It says the Gemara, Tana Rabbana, Gol me kli eitz tmeim. Gol me kli eitz, meaning any piece of wood that's not finished is tameh. Pshuteyem tahirim. Because we learn from a sack. Just like a sack is, you put things in it, and it's tameh whether it's full or empty. So too wood, whether it's full or empty, it's mikabel tuma. and therefore, if it's pashut and it doesn't have a cavity, it's not like a sack, and memela it's tar. Go make kli matachos tahir. If you have a piece of metal that you didn't finish doing what you needed to do, you can't sell it as is. It's not finished. It's not polished. Tahirim. Shutayim tmeim. But if you have a flat piece of metal, there's a lot to do with a flat piece of metal, and therefore it's considered a kli, and it's tummy. Nimtza. The Gemara is going to explain more. Nimtza tahar b'kli eitz, tummy b'kli matachos, tahar b'kli matachos, tummy b'kli eitz. So you have the reverse. Whatever is tahar by metal is tummy by wood, and whatever is tahar in wood is tummy by metal. Veilu hein kol b'kli eitz. This is what's considered unfinished wood. Kol sha'asid lashuf, if you're going to polish this wood. In other words, you're not ready to sell it, or you're ready to sell it, but you still have a final coat of polish. L'shabeit, you're putting like these little studs in it. You want to finish off the wood nicely with little whatever they are. L'garer, these are all the shyness of finishing last steps, final steps. But this kli, you can use it as is. It's still a good cup. It's still a nice thing. You want to use up some sort of tool to get off another layer, to plane it, like karkev, to again putting like some design, I think, in it. Shechoykik Rashi says, chakikus doilois, making little engravings in it. La tiach betunos. This is interesting. Rashi says this comes from atunos va'afunos. We had it already in Avodah Zarah, and the R scroll is metargim tuni fish.
Tuna.
It's like a tuna. It's not really tuna, but it's mamish a tuna. Yeah.
The whole family.
Right, it's from the tuna family. Here, this is it. Basically, sandpaper. Okay. Why did I print it out? Stop. That's right. There's a reason that I got that printer. That's the. So they'll take the skin of this tuna fish, and they would sand it down. That's what it means. Lotiach betunos. Mechusar kan, if it's missing the base, but the kli is a good kli, it just needs a base. Oy oigen, it needs a rim. Oy oizen, it needs its handle. It's still a kli. So memela tomei, it's susceptible to tumah. Mechusar chatito tahar. If you're missing part of the cavity, you didn't finish hollowing it out, it's tar. As the Gemara, mechusar chatito pshita. That's a plain piece of wood. A flat piece of wood we said is tar. So what are you telling me if it's missing the hollowing, it's tar? So this is a big chiddush. Talking about a guy decided, explains Rashi, he decided in his head that he's gonna make a kli that's a full kav. And he only got 3/4 of the way. Now, they sell in the store cups that are much smaller than 3 kav. So l'chayr, it's a good kli. No, but in his mind, he wants to sell it as a kav. So until he gets to that point, it's not a kli.
You want to sell it also with an eisen and with
Oh, so vice l'chayis, that's not makiv, because he could sell it as is. If somebody comes over to him, not that he sell it as is, it's usable as is. It's usable. Let's say it's usable as is.
So is this?
No, he's not going to use it because he has to get to the chakika. He doesn't want to start using it until he's done. He never got to that in his mind.
Cosmetic.
What?
It's not cosmetic.
It's not cosmetic. Thank you. Also, thank you. It's not a kli until it's a kli, until he gets to the measurement that he wants. Now, the other polishings and everything, those are side things. Those are after it's a kli, you make it even nicer. Cosmetics. Very similar, almost the same thing. Just you use different kalim to get to there. Kol sha'asid lashuf, you polish it. Rashi says you do it with shefina. Okay, I guess when you have a metal kli, you're not gonna use sandpaper. Tuna skin is not gonna help you sand metal. So you have to use some other, coarser kind of tool. L'shabetz, l'gorer, l'charker, l'hakish b'kurnos. You're gonna knock it with a hammer and smooth it out. Mechusar kan, oy oigen, oy oizen. All these things. If you're missing a handle, you're missing the base, the rim, it's all tahar. And the Gemara is going to explain. Mechusar kisui, however, if it's missing the cover, tameh. Because now you have a full kli, He's just missing one part of the kli, but that has nothing to do with my main kli. My cup is finished. Okay, I wanted to sell it with a cover, so now I don't have a cover. It's still tummy. Says Gemara, what's the difference between metal and wood? Metal is made for honorary functions. You have in those days, if you had guests, you'd pull out your metal kelim. So it's chashuv. Until the point that it's chashuv, until you're finished, until you don't have the final polish, you don't have the studs, and you didn't knock it out with the hammer, you're not going to sell it. Nobody sells such a kli. You want to sell it as chashivos. So chashivos is the final step. Rav Nachman says something extremely, very, very similar. He says they're very expensive. Very expensive. I want to get top dollar. If I'm selling my metal kli that I worked hard on, I'm not going to sell it before it's completely polished. All I need to do is one more layer. So I'm going to wait. So it's not a kli until I'm totally finished. So then what's the difference? My benayu. What's the difference between the two answers? Benayu kli etzem. If you make a kli out of a bone of an animal, I guess they used to use bones in those days. Didn't have what?
Ivory.
So ivory is like, I thought about ivory. That's mamish, extremely expensive, and it's covered, I would think. Ivory is a whole different league. It's like gold. But anyway, like ivory, like a bone, whatever it is, they didn't have plastic in those days, so I guess they used to use a lot of bones. And the bone is not covered. It's not covered. You don't put that out for guests. But I guess it's very expensive. So if you hold that the point is expense, then you're not going to sell it until you're totally finished. But if the point is covered, nobody cares about this bone, and you don't put it out for your guests. So mela, as is, it's tummy. You don't wait for the final step.
Rashi says they're very expensive.
Right. They're very expensive, but there's no covered. It's an interesting concept. I don't understand exactly how it works. Oh, you mean because a regular bone won't be expensive? It's just common. So then why is it not covered?
Because it's not for,
Does the article say anything about ivory?
What does covered mean? Does covered mean like...
Something you put out for guests, they say.
Symbolic rather than usable, like use a kiddush cup.
What I saw is that you put it out for guests. You have a chash of a guest, you put it out for guests.
To use or just put it on the table, nice vessel on the table?
What's the nafkamino?
It just says the bone was expensive, but it wasn't used for guests for whatever reason.
Okay.
Seems like
It almost seems like it's
the way it was
ivory.
engraved and whatever was the thing that made it valuable.
Or the way that
Nowadays ivory is expensive because, there's bands on it and stuff like that, but in the olden days maybe it
where they had elephants in the olden days. They had to go all the way to India to get an elephant. In Bavel they had elephants. I don't think.
It's not that great, no?
Yeah, they might have had elephants in Iran.
They had in Africa, the one that came over, Hannibal had elephants, he came over the Alps.
All right. Zog the Gemara. Va'azar Rav Nachman. This is Rav Nachman who says that they're very expensive. So Rav Nachman the Tamei, Rav Nachman the Shita said, Omer Rav Nachman kli etzem kli matachis damu. That bone is like mateches that you have to wait until the final step. So the Gemara says, "Mikali kli etzem mikali tuma." So you're telling me if they're like metal, so they mikali tuma. In the Sanyir b'shmol b'noish Rabbi Yechim b'Berka Omer matam aloymer v'chol maaseh izim tischato lahavi davar habom izim min akarnaim. Of course, the pasuk. It's a pasuk. You printed it out. Where is it? Somewhere. So many pasukim today. No. Where is that pasuk? Oh.
No, they can make it
Yeah, we gotta go after.
We gotta go. 5 minutes.
The Maccabees they had.
V'chol beged v'chol kli or v'chol maseh izim v'chol kli eitz tischato. All these things you have to purify. Put in the mikvah or do is machlokes actually if you sprinkle it with efer chatos. But beged kli or anything made out of leather, hide, v'chol maseh izim. So anything from a goat. What could be from a goat? It's hide. Okay, it says kliyar. Why is goat any different than anything else? It's already included in kliyar. Says the Gemara, v'chol maseh is going to tell us even from its hooves and from its horns. So you see that etzem, bone, I guess maybe the elephant, that's its horns, nah. V'chol kliyes, so it's susceptible to tumah. La'avi dover habo min ha'izim min ha'karnayim u'min atlofayim. Anything that comes from the goat's horns or its hooves is mekabel tumah. Shar behema v'chayim minayin tamud loymar v'chol maaseh. These two words over here come to say all animals. Imkei matamud loymar. So all animals are included. What's so special about goats? Prat loivois izim comes to exclude birds. In other words, if you were to take a bird's claws and make something out of it, or its beak, or whatever it is, or its bones, I guess. No, maybe bones are different. Its beak, anything that's like a tlafayim and karnayim, it's not mekabel tuma, and that we learn from the word izim. Says the Mishnah, Hachay b'shkedim hamorim poter b'metukim. There were two types of almonds. One was the sweet version, and one was the sour one. And the sour one started off sweet, and later on, as it gets bigger, it becomes sour. And the sweet one, you usually, I don't know how sweet it was when it starts out, but you wait until it gets bigger. Otherwise, there's no gmar pri. So we're talking about trumas and maisrus. If you're chayev and truma, b'shkedim hamorim, then poter b'metukim. At that, whatever stage that you're chayev for the sour almonds, in other words, they're in a very premature stage. They're very small, but that's the only time you could eat them because they're sweet, and that's when you'd be chayev in meiser. But for another normal almond that's sweet, you wouldn't eat it then because it's not a gemar pri, so you're not chayev on trumas and meisers. Hachayev b'metukim, poter b'marim. And the same thing is in the reverse. That if you're chayev on a mature almond, b'trumas and meisers, because that's when you eat a sweet almond, a normal almond like we have today, you'll be poter on a sour almond because it's not food anymore. Tana
We're
Rabbanan.
talking about the same almonds.
No, I think it's two types of almonds. Let's say you have a brown and a white, whatever, two species. One species is a sweet one and one is a sour one. Bitter. Okay, that's a better word. Thank you. Bitter. Tana Rabbanan. Shkedim ha'amorim ktanim chayovim. The bitter, small almonds are chayev because that's when you could eat them. They're not so bitter. You chayev b'meiser. G'dolim pturim, but once they become large, mature, then they are poter for meiser. Metukim g'dolim chayovim. The sweet ones, when they're full size, they're chayev b'meiser. Ktanim pturim, but if they're small, they're poter. Why are they poter? Because they're not finished yet. There's no gmar pri. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Mishum Aviv, Zeh v'Zeh liptur. Both are poter. What's both? So Rashi says both small almonds are poter, because even a bitter almond that's small, it's still not a gemar pri. So just because it's sweet and that's when you could eat it, doesn't mean that you're chay b'meiser. Tosfos is mechulik, and Tosfos says both are poter, meaning both bitter ones are poter. Va'amri lo zeh v'zeh l'chiyuv. And some people say that he said in the name of his father, Rabbi Yossi, that both full-size almonds are chayiv. Even the bitter one is chayiv b'meiser because at the end of the day it's a full-size pri. That both small almonds are poter because there's no gemar pri. Well, the man what do we do? What could you possibly do with a larger almond, a full-size almond that's bitter? It's not food, so why are you chayiv b'meiser? You could make it sweeter by putting it over the fire, on the barbecue, on the, what are they called? The
Roasting.
Right.
Barbecue.
no, he said it. Roasting, yeah.
On the spit.
On the spit. No, but you know what we do in camp? You take the
Chestnut.
chestnut, you take a marshmallow, you take an almond, and you That's what they do, yeah. Zok the Mishnah. So, before we start the Mishnah, there's a couple things we need to know. If you have a mikvah a mikvah needs to be 40 saw. So if you have a mikvah that's 39.9 saw, and you add sink water, mayim shu'uvim, into it, let's say you take 3 lug of water, and you pour it into the mikvah, and with that you made the mikvah into 40 saw, guess what happens? The mikvah is pasul, and you have to drain out the entire thing. You can't fix it. It's gone. All 40 saw has to be drained out. Now, if instead of water you put wine, you took 3 lug of wine, you poured it into the mikvah, it's okay. It's only water that makes it pasul. Other mashkim don't make it pasul. Okay. Now, the other halacha that we need to know is...
It only comes in the very at the end.
Yeah. Well,
This room is the beginning.
you mean because it's mevatel, the water is mevatel, the yayin, the roiv.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, slowly. Okay, the other halacha is that wine, if you have Meiser Sheni money, right? You redeemed on the first, second, fourth, and fifth year of Meiser Sheni. You have a lot of payroys. You trade them in for cash. You take that money to Yerushalayim and you buy fruit. Could you buy wine with that money? Yes. Can you buy bottled water with that money? No. So those are the differences between wine and water. Now, what happens if we have something in between wine and water? It's called temed. Temed is you take water and you pour it into grape seeds. The leftovers, the peels, whatever it's called. What is it called in English?
Sediment.
The sediment. Thank you. What kind? Caramel? Or kedem,
There
whatever.
was somebody in South Africa that used to call it not wine.
Not
Make
wine.
it from the seeds.
Beseder, temed. Now, the way it works is first you put the water, and obviously it doesn't become wine right away. There's a process, and finally, when it ferments, it becomes wine. Now, before it ferments, what halacha does it have? Is it water or wine? So, sometimes it depends, says the Mishnah. Hatemed, now, until now we were talking about two opposite things. We're talking about shchita and malika. Egel and this. What do we have here? Shkedim, well, even shkedim, well, two types of shkedim. Now we're talking about one thing, hatemed. But it has two halachas. Ad shelo yichmitz, eini nikach bekesef meiser. When it's still like in its watery state, it didn't ferment, so you can't buy water with meiser sheni money. So memelo, you can't buy this temed with meiser sheni money. Upoisel samikva, it has the halacha of water because it didn't ferment yet, so we view it as water. And water, which is not mayim chaim, it's not rainwater, it's not from a mayim chaim source, that it makes the mikvah pasul. If you add 3 lug of this water of temed into the mikvah, it makes it pasul. Mishichmitz, once it ferments, now we view it as wine. Nigar because of meiser, so you can buy it with meiser sheni money, ve'eni pasul samikvah. And just like wine doesn't make a mikvah pasul, so temed also doesn't make a mikvah pasul. Ha'achim hashutafim. You have brothers that got an inheritance. Now, inheritance, there's 2 stages. There's the stage right before they divided the money between themselves. That's called tfusas habayis. It's an in-between stage. We almost view it as if it's still the father's money.
The estate.
The state, thank you, the state. Today, a lot of art school. Chaval. Okay, the state. It's in limbo, but we view it as the father's, almost like the father's money. Once the brothers decide, let's go together, let's make a partnership here, so then they become regular partners. Says the Mishnah, Acham HaShutofim. Shutvim are potter from Meiser Behema. So if they own a ranch and they have a lot of animals, they don't have to pay, they don't have to give 10% to the kohen. They don't have to or bring it to Yerushalayim and Shechten and the whole thing. Kishachayovim bekalboin, pturim Meiser Behema. Kalboin is, we had this a few times, when you give them machzah shekel, Every time you bring a machzah shekel, you have to add a little bit, a tiny coin called a kalban. Why? Because a machzah shekel will worry that it's not pure. It's not 100%. Because Baruch said, give like this, give this machzah shekel, so it has to be exactly a machzah shekel. Just in case it's slightly under a machzah shekel, what you just gave, add a kalban. Now, if you were to give for somebody else a machzah shekel, you don't have to add that kalban. So if the father is giving machzah shekel for his sons, he doesn't have to add the kalban. But if it's in the state,
the idea is that there's two people giving together, so they give a whole shekel. So this problem of missing a little bit doesn't exist because he's giving a whole shekel. He's not cutting it in half. Right?
they still have to give a kalban.
So these are the exceptions that if it's a father and a son, he doesn't have to give. If he gives a whole shekel.
If he's giving for somebody else.
Whenever you're giving
But anytime you give for somebody else, if you give for a poor person, also you don't have to give.
The kana applies or not. But
Okay.
The point is that they're giving a whole shekel. It's two people.
Are you saying that kalban is really called because something's cutting in half?
That's
I thought even if a machzah shekel is made as is, it's still not 100%. You don't know that they made it with 100%, 50% of a shekel. It might be 49.9.
And why should the shekel be okay? The whole point is that if you give a shekel to two people, there's nothing missing.
Mm-hmm. Is that the halacha?
So the bank fee,
They didn't have a
you
whole
have
shekel.
to get a money changer.
That's something else.
People want to spend that
I know what you're talking about. It's the money changer takes.
No, he was talking about two people.
What is that for? This kalban is for the not pure. It's not. What?
When you put your money in to buy something, maybe to
The changer he gets to keep. Mashu acher. When these brothers are chayav in kalban, in other words, their father is not. It's not the estate anymore. It's coming out of their partnership. So since it's a partnership, they have to add on the kalban, because if the father was giving for them, the father wouldn't have to add a kalban. So since they're partners, they don't have to give they have to give a kalban. But if they're partners, partners are patur from meiser behema. But when they're not considered partners and it's still in the state, it's tvus habayis, pturim min kalban, because then it's as if their father gave them the kalban, gave it for them, and he's patur. Should we stop here? What do you guys say?
It's a short.
It's okay.
What does it
Everyone
mean?
wants to see the kana again?
Only if the doc is willing to dissect it.
I don't really want to.
Well, I suppose
You're-
take it out.
Right now?
What's the
Yeah,
problem?
yeah,
Tell me,
don't
you
do
say
anything.
you're going to